Good evening. I'm sorry I couldn't be at the presentation tonight, but I wanted to give you an idea about Microknowledge Learning Emporium and where we are. I call it the MLE. I'm going to talk about several things. I'm going to talk about what is Microknowledge Learning Emporium, who is the target audience, what are the challenges with an immersive environment like Microknowledge Learning Emporium, and what makes immersive better. So throughout the course, you've heard me talk about Microknowledge Learning Emporium and virtual spaces. And I'm sure I probably don't have to tell you folks, what is a virtual space? One of the huge benefits in this case, it can resemble anything one can dream up or create. It's low cost, fairly low maintenance, engaging to a new workforce, and can be a safe resting place. Microknowledge Learning Emporium is a virtual conference and training center for corporate America. The island is a showcase for corporate America, giving organizations, large and small, the opportunity to see, use, and understand how an organization can extend beyond their brick and mortar presence and take advantage of virtual environments. For me, I remember Star Trek: The Next Generation when I was first introduced to the holodeck in 1987. I've dreamed of immersing myself in a world outside of where we are. Perhaps organizations don't have the funds available for a holodeck. However, they can either afford their own virtual space or use something like the Microknowledge Learning Emporium. There are many reasons one would use the Microknowledge Learning Emporium or an immersive environment. They are, as I said, we can resemble almost anything anyone can dream up or create. Worlds can be created, customized, backed up, then replaced and restored as needed. So if I need more of an open space, I might have a world that's open. I might customize it, back it up, and then come back to this environment. So even MLE can be constantly changing. Low cost. With a simple monthly fee, organizations, especially those with a remote workforce, can't complain about the low cost of an immersive environment. Compared to travel and other related expenses for business meetings, an immersive environment is a fraction of the cost. Fairly low maintenance. Although virtual spaces can be complex if the organization decides to customize, once the environment is customized and backed up, it can be reused at any moment with a simple restore. The hard work is upfront. Depending on the need to customize, the ongoing maintenance is minimal. The environment may be ready quickly with pre-made worlds, or if there's necessary, time to customize. Engaging a new workforce. With millennials making up over half of the Facebook's 9 million users, workforce engagement seems to necessitate a need to encourage social and interactive opportunities for a generation that has grown up with technology. Now, I'm not picking on the millennials. Most of us at this point use technology, and we need something a little more engaging. But we have to consider who's coming into the workforce. A safe resting place. This might be the place where one might tune out the world for a few moments, rather than lay on a cot in the bathroom. An immersive environment can be a respite with a view, soft sounds, perhaps a little chill time with a few friends. Depends on what you want the immersive environment for, what organizations would like the immersive environment for. The target audience, as I said earlier, organizations large and small. Those who work remote. Organizations looking for a higher level of engagement. Any business, large or small, that has a remote workforce, that has a number of meetings and collaborative work. When having a meeting in virtual space, it's harder to check out. You can see people, you can gesture, you can talk, you can collaborate. However, you have the anonymity of an avatar, so those that may not typically speak up feel more free to speak and engage. Early adopters of an environment like this are folks like Xerox and IBM and Coca-Cola and Cisco and Disney. And although for folks like Coca-Cola and Disney, that was mostly for entertainment purposes, the intent of a company like Xerox or IBM and Cisco was to actually interact and engage. There are certainly challenges with virtual organizations, and the biggest one is really getting organizations to go virtual. You've heard the adage, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, the problem is it is broken and organizations just don't know it. So although organizations complain that meetings aren't productive and that the meetings are boring, and they continue to hold them in the same way without making any changes, once organizations give immersive space a try, I think they'll feel more at ease with the technology, which brings us to our second point, the unfamiliarity with the technology. The technology is really simple. I think, however, its simplicity is scary for organizations, particularly those who need to protect the rights of their employees. Suffice it to say, the lack of security options for high security offices might be a huge deterrent. Not having a good rollout plan. I see it all the time in the training organization where organizations say, oh, we're getting new software. And then they just give the software and then walk away and hope that everybody else just understands how to use it. In this case, we're introducing something to make everyone's life a little bit easier. But if there's no time for folks to immerse themselves to understand, I've done videos on using gestures, navigation, then folks aren't going to adapt it at all. We're all busy. Assuming millennials know what to do. Again, I'm not really picking on millennials, but I do want you to think about who's coming into the workforce. But they don't. We don't. We didn't. So everybody needs to have some time with the environment. They need videos like the ones I presented earlier that show how to navigate, how to gesture. And then the last one that you saw in the last part of the course, how to edit and get comfortable with your avatar. Understanding who you are in this space is important. Understanding how you can act real, still be anonymous, but act real to show emotion, to show passion, to show outrage, whatever it is that you want to show for collaborative purposes. Those are going to be important things so that folks feel like they are more engaged. They can be more engaged. They can speak up. They can explain and articulate what it is that they're trying to do in this collaborative space. Karl Kopp wrote an article. It's a great article. He's more of an innovator for virtual worlds and virtual spaces. And he wrote an article called Lessons Learned from Conducting 3D Virtual World Learning Experiences. He had some of these types of things on there, but the one thing he said that really resonated with me, which actually prompted my last video, was getting to know your avatar. Your avatar is going to represent you in the virtual space. So you really should get to know who that is. Now, your avatar could be like you. In this case, my avatar looks a little bit like me, not exactly, but the type of dress, how one might wear their hair, something like that is similar to how I might do it. But other avatars don't necessarily have to look like you. We don't have that many choices in Kitely, but in Second Life, I remember when I created an account, I could be a fairy or a monster or an alien or something to that effect. And maybe that's how I'd want to represent myself. Once I felt comfortable with that representation, then I kind of feel comfortable in my own skin, so to speak. And that would allow for more engagement. So what makes immersive better? So I already talked about this a little bit. It is harder to check out. You feel like you're with the group. So even though everybody's remote, you're sitting right next to the person you're talking to. And you can still gesture, you can still talk, you can be social. I know many times prior to our meetings, we have conversations about either what's going on, how folks are doing, and the fact that you're anonymous, but you're there represented by something that you feel comfortable with, your avatar, can lead to higher participation. Some of you might be incredibly shy. However, using the avatar, you're a little more outspoken. I had the pleasure of actually presenting utilizing the Microknowledge Learning Emporium. So I did a presentation on November 9th. I introduced the Microknowledge Learning Emporium to my clients. I gave them some unstructured time in the environment, and they left buzzing about how they could use virtual spaces. It was fantastic. So it was just a wonderful way for me to introduce immersive spaces. Now, I wasn't the only one there. I'm grateful that I had Dr. O'Connor there, and I had guest speakers. So Dr. O'Connor was one of the guest speakers, and she actually spoke in the area that I'm speaking in now, and she introduced and talked about how she uses immersive spaces or how she knows businesses use immersive spaces. So it was wonderful, and then she was helping to guide some folks during their unstructured time. I had Jana Alman-Ziekman. You folks may know her. She has probably popped in and out of a few courses you may have been in, but she's creating a virtual space, and that's what her final project is going to be on as well, where she teaches folks about the Wild West. I don't know exactly the option she's teaching folks by, but it's Southern and their cows, and her environment is more like a simulation as well. She spoke to the group about that. And then I invited Scott Bruno, someone who you may know from a series of classes as well. He was going to speak about how, in his case, he works in a large hospital, and he's literally been using his immersive environment to hold meetings and things like that, kind of like what we do. And I wanted him to talk about that. Unfortunately, his technology wasn't working, but I was able to speak to the work that he had been doing. I'd taken a few classes with him, and I've spoken to him a few times. So it was just great to have those folks in there. Our clients listened to their stories. They asked questions. So in real time, they had their own avatars, so they were asking questions and interacting. So even though Scott couldn't speak, he was still in the world. Jana was in the world. Dr. O'Connor was in the world. They were able to help folks out. And then I gave them some unstructured time. And with that unstructured time, they also had the opportunity to use the handout that you saw previously in this same section about how to getting to know your avatar, how to modify the avatar, switch out clothing, maybe change the appearance a little bit. And they literally left buzzing. There was such excitement in the air. So it was just a great opportunity. So thank you for giving me the time to present Microknowledge Learning Emporium. It's actually been great. I'm really excited. We've had some clients ask questions about these environments. So I hope that they will come back, ask some questions regarding use, what potential options there are. And, not that we would provide any training in it, but maybe we could. But I'm just excited that they want to be able to use the spaces. So thank you.